Manager learns to listen.
It's been a few years, so the debt souls may be off, but this is a story I heard from the best boss I ever had. I worked for a guy, Frank, who built and adjusted cubicles, among other things, for a manufacturing company. He was a contractor, but he'd worked with them for about 40 years, so he knew the company better than many of the employees. He told me a story of a big-headed manager who got put in charge of sales. This guy decided he wanted to be able to step out of his office and see all his people working. Whether it was a power trip, or he honestly thought it would help, I don't know. Frank told him it wasn't a good idea, but he insisted. So Frank goes through the entire floor and shortens all the cubicles to waist height.
He actually had to cut the frames down since they didn't have enough of the right size. This only lasted a week or two before the manager realized his mistake. Something about removing the sound barriers between people who spent a good portion of their day on the phone had a negative effect on productivity and morale. Crazy, right? The manager comes back to Frank and asks him to put everything back the way it was. However, like I said, Frank had to cut the frames the first time, and you can't just weld them back together. Frank told me this story as we were adjusting someone's desk on that floor. I still don't know how exactly he got them all together, but that manager learned his lesson and actually listened to his people after that.
Sounds a lot like the craze for open-plan offices that took over just before I retired a few years ago. My employer redesigned 2 floors of our HQ, ripping out office and cubicle areas, laying polished concrete floors, and putting in large cafeteria-style work tables for people, with a few inadequate glass-walled conference rooms and private areas. Senior management was shocked when retention plummeted, new hires bailed, and everyone who possibly could opted for telework. That was before COVID, but I can't imagine it's gotten much better. Last I heard, they were looking at retooling the new layouts.
I'm the manager here. Now watch me manage to screw everything up.
It's like getting a haircut. Yes, we can cut down the divider cube walls. No, we cannot put them back.
As someone who can only comprehend one person speaking at a time, it just makes me shudder to think of having to be on the phone trying to understand that person, in the middle of a dozen other people talking on the phone themselves. I would literally space out of the conversation I'd be having sometimes, because those other conversations would somehow grab my attention.
Someplace, a manager tries something new and somehow make it work. So he or she writes a book about how great it is. Other managers read the book and try it out. It's a big failure because they aren't anything like that first manager.
This kind of thing is pervasive in schools. We had 2 elementary schools that were open concept, with classes separated by bookcases, cubbies, etc. Another school was pods, in the woods. In New England, there were 8 separate buildings on campus, and you had to traverse through the rain and snow to go to the GYM, cafeteria, library, nurse, and main office. I could go on and on.
Ah yes, manglement. At least this one learned, most don't lol.
My office manager didn't like it when we got cubicles as the walls were 8 feet high. Not sure if exact, but standing up you couldn't see over them. As he wanted to be able to look out his office and see everyone. But it was a government office, so he had no say in this. Corporate accounts payable, Nina speaking. Just a moment, quote.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.